Hey everybody, Mark Horner here. Have not been on YouTube for a few months, so I'm a bit rusty with the live skills, but I wanted to jump on tonight to share and possibly answer some questions if I'm able to, regarding what I've been tweeting about, which seems to have grabbed some traction on Twitter, about a crime that impacted my family, but certainly is not contained to this area that I live in. I'm finding out that it's happening throughout the greater Seattle area in places. More on that in a moment. And I even saw a video today of it playing out in California. I saw some security video. So want to talk about that in just a moment here. And I'm not sure we're going to get many people to jump on, but here I am and we'll see how this goes. I've got the chat loaded. So if you want to enter any comments or questions in the chat, if you're watching this live, then we'll go for it, and I'll do my best to answer. So what are we talking about exactly? Well, yesterday, around 12:30 to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so early afternoon, my mother-in-law became a victim of a crime, and indeed a couple of the Seattle television stations saw my tweets, and they interviewed me today for stories that aired earlier this evening on King 5, the NBC affiliate, and Q13, which is the Fox affiliate. I'm told that Channel 13 might do a bit more on their later evening newscast. Hi, Mark from north of Chicago. Hey, Susan. Nice to see your name here again. I've gone dark the last few months, dealing with some stuff here at home, but things are starting to stabilize and everything's okay. And this seems like a good one to jump in on back onto YouTube because it's really aimed at viewer benefit. I really want to create some awareness. Some of you are going to say you've heard of this approach to crime that these folks are using, these bandits. Some of you may not know anything about it. And so I really want to just get the word out so that no matter where you live, if you encounter this, you're not overwhelmed. Not that you would be. Maybe it's somebody that you're related to, especially older folks, and it tends to be senior citizens, people in their 80s, quite frankly, who are often targeted in this. And it's not passive, it's aggressive. And so these folks, these victims, don't even have really a moment to, dip back and consider and ponder. No, they're being touched and showered with kindness and deceived and targeted and then left dumbfounded and with a whole bunch of emotions that could range from that, how could they do that to me, to maybe even blaming themselves, which they shouldn't. So here goes. Yesterday between 12:30 and 1 in Mill Creek, Washington, which is north of Seattle, about 30 minutes, where my mother-in-law lives, she had just returned from running some errands. She had been to the local post office, she had been to her bank, and she had gone by the Mill Creek Community Association office to drop something off or pick something up. And Susan North says, sadly happening in the Gold Coast, expensive area during the day. Chicago is a mess. They do all kinds of things, no doubt, I'm sure. So you may be well aware of this, Susan, but let me just plow forward with it. So when she got home, shortly thereafter, she's in her driveway and a black SUV pulls up. And what I've since learned is, I'm convinced, although it hasn't been really detailed in the media just yet, is that there was a similar incident involving the same suspect's description and vehicle description and very specific tactics about 10 days earlier, so less than 2 weeks earlier. But my mother-in-law and her neighbors, by and large, as far as I know, had no knowledge of it. But had they had that knowledge, perhaps my mother-in-law wouldn't have been a victim yesterday. So here's what happens. Black SUV pulls up, and there are several people in it. There are two men sitting in front. There is a woman in the back and what appears to be two children. One of the children appears to be a girl, about 12 years, roughly of age. And a woman steps out and asks, could you tell us where the Lutheran church is located? Now, what an intro. You've got this nice SUV, you've got what appears to be family possibly, and they're asking about the Lutheran church. Now, these people, just to give you a description, they are darker skinned and they have accents, but I don't know for a fact what nationality or what their native language they might be, and they may be American. They may be, U.S. citizens. I don't know. Don't have that information. So the woman has gotten out. She approaches my mother-in-law, and she says, "Oh, and it's my birthday. I want to give you a gift." And I'm not sure of the succession of how all this unfolded, but the big thing was this stranger, this woman, has more than one kind of heavier necklaces and puts them over my mother-in-law's neck. Now, my mother-in-law's in her late 80s, but she's very sharp, and she's not going to say, "Yeah, bring that on. I want this." She wasn't even asked if she'd like to try these on. It was like, they're asking about the church one moment, and then they're putting this over. And the other people remained in the car, but I feel like this was very well orchestrated, because those people in the car are going to, at opportune times, like I've likened it to, this was like an orchestra. Everybody gets their solo moment, their cue, to deceive and distract the victim, in this case, my mother-in-law. So there came a moment very quickly with these necklaces on, and the girl, who appears to be about 12 in the vehicle, starts saying something to get my mother-in-law's attention, and she turns to look. And it's around that moment, as my mother-in-law looks at the girl in the car, that the strange woman who got out of the vehicle, removes these heavy necklaces. And what my mother-in-law didn't realize is that the woman was also removing my mother-in-law's necklace. In fact, I can show you that. Let me bring up another source. Okay, I took some pictures that I have of my mother-in-law, and I cropped them. This is the necklace. Here's another shot of the necklace. And this was a necklace with a long chain, and we're not optimistic that we're going to see these things again, but just so you have an idea. And we'll get to the ring in a moment. But this is the necklace. And let's see if we can do this. Let's do picture in picture. Okay, we'll do this here. So, but the woman wasn't done, who had gotten out of the vehicle. She has an interest in my mother-in-law's rings, and my mother-in-law, withdraws her hands. And there's a guy in the car too. One of the two men is fanning out bills and saying, "We want to thank you for helping us find the church, giving us the directions. We want to just give you some money." And these bills, it's just a few. They're $1 bills, and my mother-in-law has no intention of taking that money. But she is thinking, these people want me to buy necklaces, and I'm going to have to tell them no. So she's preparing for that in her head. This woman's trying to remove my mother-in-law's rings. The first ring is not going to come off. It's very difficult to come off, and my mother-in-law says, "You're not going to get that ring off," So this very seemingly nice person who's all over her with her hands, and but she goes for the other ring. She removes it and says, "Let me just have a look. Oh, it's a beautiful ring," something like that. I'm kind of ad-libbing, but that was the spirit of it. And she goes, "I'll give it back to you." And the strange woman, puts the ring, or an object, in my mother-in-law's pocket, and it feels like a ring. It was a ring, but it wasn't my mother-in-law's. I'm told it was some other cheapo thing. And I'm sorry my fan is making a little noise, but I got to have that fan on because it's been warm today, and it gets pretty warm in here. So, but my mother-in-law does not know at this moment that her necklace has been taken and that she's been given back some other object and not a ring. And in very short order, this car speeds away with my mother-in-law's ring, her necklace, and even a bracelet. So let me just check the comments here. Okay, there's Susan. I'm going to turn this off or turn it around. There we go. So this was really bold. A couple things. Let me see. There's the necklace again. I've blurred faces here, but that's my mother-in-law again and again, just so you can get an idea. So I'm going to go to something else here in just a moment. Let's remove the picture in picture, and we'll just come back to the shot for the moment, though, and I'll prepare to show you something else here. So I get contacted by King 5, the NBC affiliate, first today, and they want to do an interview with me, or they want my mother-in-law, but we want to protect her, and we don't want her. She doesn't want to go on camera, but she thought it would be a good idea to get the word out. And later, the Fox affiliate, Channel 13, reached out, and again, I agreed to do an interview. Didn't take much time. But we actually, my wife and I learned something first thing this morning, and This is where I'm going to give you information that is not in the news reports as of yet, at least not in detail. One station didn't mention this at all, and another station kind of alluded to it. But what we learned first thing this morning is that, as I mentioned earlier in this live stream, there had been a very similar incident less than 2 weeks earlier, where a couple, we were told in their late 80s, were targeted. In fact, they were at a donut shop in the Mill Creek area and going through a drive-through, and they watched the car behind them follow them. Turns out, tail them home. And same vehicle description, same, woman, 2 men, couple of children. And what was right on the mark was, in that incident, we were told that the woman got out of the car and said, "It's my birthday today, and I want to give you a present or give you a gift." Exactly like was said to my mother-in-law yesterday. So we believe this is not the first time this has happened in Mill Creek in recent, inside of a couple of weeks. And when Channel 5, King 5 contacted me, they said that they had done some coverage on this very same type of operation in Bellevue, Washington, south of here. Just for those of you who don't know, just east of Seattle. Several instances in the Bellevue area that were very much the same. And then I also found late this afternoon, my wife shared with me an article from Kent, Washington, which is south of Seattle, where in 2021 there were similar crimes reported, and there was speculation, I guess I'll use that word, that the perpetrators were from either Romania or East India, I think is what it was. So wanted to share all that because had my mother-in-law known that there had been this prior incident, I don't think she'd be a victim. She would have disengaged, perhaps gotten the license plate, but wouldn't have been fallen into the trap where so much came at her at once. And that's the whole thing. This thing is overwhelming. These people show up, they act very friendly, and then it's hands, showering you with gifts. You want this money, and you're like, no, and then you're being distracted by the kid, you're being distracted by a man fanning money. And really, it's this hands that you basically robbing people with this fake kindness and all of this deception, sleight of hands. So then what came to my attention as the day wore on, and let me just check something here. Got a couple of notifications. There's my dog barking. That's Bo. I want to go to my profile because I want to be able to share something with you before. Okay. So let's take a look at my Twitter feed on my iPad, and then I will show you something where we see this was shared by Channel 13, a separate, same type of story, but out of California. I believe it's Glendale, California. And this made headlines or was shared in a tweet today, and I believe the story is dated today, August 30th as well. So let's go ahead and bring this up. Here's my Twitter feed. And so 4 hours ago, Fox 13, that's not it. I just want to see if I can just, no, I can't. Okay, let's just go here. What looks like an innocent encounter between an elderly woman and another person actually turned out to be a robbery in broad daylight caught on camera. So I want to bring this up and I want to show you the video. Now there's going to be a 30-second ad. Robbery of 84-year-old woman in Glendale. Again, this is a separate case. It's not even in Washington State. It's in California, Glendale, California. And let's just double check the date. Yes, August 30th, 2022, 12:28 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I'll just go ahead and read this first, and then we'll play the video because I think that will give you the full info here. So, Glendale, California. Glendale police are investigating after the robbery of an elderly woman in broad daylight was caught on camera. The incident happened on August 26th. Video shared with Fox 11 from the victim's son shows his 84-year-old mother sitting with a friend in front of a home when a gray SUV pulls up in front of the driveway. If you look closely, the same SUV is seen on camera driving up and down on the same street in front of the home several times. An unknown woman gets out of the car and approaches the two elderly women, giving the victim what appears to be a hug. They exchange words, and the victim is handed something from the suspect. The victim's son told Fox 11, so this is Fox 11 would be the California station that where this story originated, told Fox 11 the suspect was trying to sell his mother a necklace, even trying to put it on her at one point. But it's during this time the suspect also takes off the woman's own necklace. Now, I want to interrupt right there. I want to make it clear. My mother-in-law, very similar circumstance. You know, this woman gets out of an SUV, puts these necklaces over her head. My mother-in-law says she was thinking, oh my goodness, she's going to try and sell me this stuff and I don't want it. But she never mentioned to me that there was ever anything said by the woman or the people in her car or SUV about wanting to sell something to her. It was about, where is the Lutheran church? That was the whole foundation to the conversation. And then, hey, it's my birthday and I want to give you gifts, this woman said, starting with the necklaces apparently. So reading on, a second suspect and a boy, so once again involving a child, are then seen getting out of the car, with the second suspect approaching the other elderly woman and apparently greeting her by taking her hand and holding it to her forehead. She does the same thing with the other victim. The son told Fox 11 the second suspect then tries to take his mother's wedding ring off her finger, but is unsuccessful. Just like with my mother-in-law. I told you, the woman tried to take both of her rings, couldn't get one off her finger, and I'm live right now. And so did, though, get the second ring and played the shell game of sorts with it. And my mother-in-law lost one of her 2 rings that she was wearing during this time. So meanwhile, the boy in the background is seen trying to take his shirt off and cover what's happening from being witnessed by passers-by. Once the first suspect has the victim's necklace, all 3 walk away from the victims, get into the car, and drive away. The Glendale Police Department, again, if you're just joining, I'm talking about a case in Glendale, California, which is strikingly similar to what's been happening in Washington State, including just yesterday in Mill Creek, Washington, with my mother-in-law. Once the first suspect has the victim's necklace, all 3 walk away from the victims, get into the car, and drive away. Okay. The Glendale Police Department tells Fox 11 it is continuing to investigate this incident as it is seeing an uptick in this kind of crime in the city. The victim's son said the necklace stolen from his mother was very old and sentimental to her because of what happened. He said she is scared to leave her home. And that looks like the end of the article. So what I'm going to do is I think it's going to start with an ad here. So we'll just wait for this ad to finish and I'll just come back up. In a minute, we'll pop right back to that. So there's no audio with the, I don't believe, with this security video that you're about to see, but you'll see just exactly what was described in that article. So let's let this ad finish and we'll watch the video. In fact, I'll bring it full screen here in just a moment. Thank you, Susan. Okay, here's the video. So 2 women, elderly, sitting in the driveway. Now, the article said that a vehicle goes by back and forth, and I believe that's it right there. It just went by. Okay? Now, the video pretty much speaks for itself, although you now know very much better understand what's about to unfold here because of the information provided in the news article, specifically from one of the victim's sons here. So here's that vehicle again. Let's just watch how this plays out. And feel free in the comments, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask. And the main reason I'm doing this, there really isn't a lot of optimism in my family that we're going to see the jewelry again, although that would be great. I can share the sentimental reasons attached to those objects in just a moment. Okay, so the SUV is stopped. A woman approaches the 2 elderly women. Oh, and she's going to be very friendly. We don't know. Oh, look, she gives her a hug. We don't know exactly what's being said, but this woman is a complete stranger. And there appears to be, obviously a fairly nice vehicle that this woman has arrived in. She seems to have family. Now she's handing something. These might be the necklaces. So both of the elderly women who are being targeted. And what's interesting here is I just have to wonder if this was completely random, because I think it's highly likely that my mother-in-law was trailed just because she lives in a location where you have to, it doesn't make any sense where my mother-in-law lives near, in a very kind of tucked away part that somebody with, immediate neighbors would go there unless they had knowledge. And my mother-in-law, and here you can see the kid taking off his shirt and the other woman's moved in. All this distraction is happening, talking, conversation. She put the woman in the middle there, who first approached, has put necklaces over. There are people over in the side yard. The kid was holding up his shirt, and maybe they're a little uneasy because there are people nearby. But now they're leaving, and these two women don't know it, but they've just been robbed. So strikingly similar to the false kindness and deception and distracting. Yeah, that my mother-in-law encountered just yesterday. So one of the news stories tonight said that police have said that these suspects, that the people who are committing these crimes are renting vehicles. Now, I don't know if they got that from a police source today or from perhaps their prior coverage where maybe they were told that by Bellevue, Washington police. Because I have not heard that until today, and it's entirely possible. But what I find interesting is in this these two Mill Creek cases, with my mother-in-law and then the one a week ago Saturday, so less than 2 weeks ago, same vehicle description. No plate number that my mother-in-law had anyway, but shiny, big, black, nice-looking SUV, woman, 2 men, 2 kids. That all matches up. And then only the woman gets out and says, after this asking for directions type approach, says, it's my birthday and I want to give you a gift. So it's very possible that these were the same people and that they were in the same vehicle. And I think that's important. And maybe you feel I'm splitting hairs, but if we simply dismiss it to they're renting cars and that makes it harder for them to catch, it kind of implies that they go out, they do the crime, they get another rental, go out and do another crime. I think it's entirely possible that the same vehicle was used in Mill Creek on at least 2 occasions, about 10 days apart, roughly, less than 2 weeks. So I want to make that distinction. It can also be confusing in the news coverage because they're using file video from Bellevue, Washington from, I guess, months ago, earlier this year. And you see a different looking SUV or a different looking vehicle from a home security camera. That's not even Mill Creek. What I really want to impress upon for the people who live in the Mill Creek area and even outside of the Mill Creek area, in case these bandits hit again in your neighborhood outside of Mill Creek and you live in this area, is that here's a major red flag. If a black SUV, shiny black SUV arrives and it's got a woman, 2 men, and 2 kids, and this is the exclamation point. If the woman, after asking for directions, says, it's my birthday and I want to give you a gift, disengage. If you can, and it's safe, get the license plate, but disengage, call police. And then think, do I have any video on my security, my doorbell, maybe a Ring doorbell? Do my neighbors have anything? And look into that, or share that information with police so they can look into it. What's kind of scary, if you really think about it, is that there are these 2 men traveling with the woman and the kids. And the question becomes, how far would they go? They're hunters. They're looking for the spoils. They're directly, I think that, in my mother-in-law's case, again, very likely trailed her. She had been at the bank. She had been... I'm drawing a blank. And my wife will tell me in just a moment. She had been at the bank. I know she went to the Mill Creek Community Association building, and it was one other place. So she very well could have been the post office. She could have been tailed. And I heard from a very reliable source that in the prior incident, a week ago Saturday, that the elderly couple in that specific case, who gives very similar descriptions to what happened to them, to very comparative to what happened to my mother-in-law. They were going through a local donut shop drive-through and saw the black SUV behind them in line, and the woman apparently remarked, "Oh my gosh, they didn't even stop to get their food. Those folks must be in a hurry." And lo and behold, when this older couple gets home, and I'm told they're in their late 80s, that black SUV pulls up. So I think that they're looking, these bandits, for people who have jewelry. I think it would be a lot less efficient to go troll neighborhoods to find an isolated person and just hope that they're wearing jewelry. I think that they're scouting. And I've even gone as far as to consider, and again, this is pure speculation on my part, because I got a response on Twitter that someone thinks that these people resemble the folks that they've seen at intersections selling flowers or asking, for money. And you know what, if you think about it, and again, there's nothing to this in terms of proof, but if you really wanted to get your eyes on people in their vehicle and what they're wearing in terms of jewelry, being right there side by side with you at a red light and walking back and forth on that median, that's a great way to scope out potential game if you're a hunter, right? So kind of scary, but I really want to share it because I want people to be aware of these tactics and not be ambushed and surprised, and perhaps thinking, oh my gosh, they want me to buy something, and being fixated on, I don't want to buy anything from them, and I'm going to have to tell them no. And then suddenly they leave, and then you realize they've taken your jewelry in this case. But again, 2 men with them too, and how far would they go? How far might they come back? I think it's in their best interest to stay away from a specific neighborhood, because the word's out. Neighbors are going to be looking for people who meet that those descriptions and so forth and so on. But with the men in there, you just have to wonder how far they might go. It's apparent, is not only being done here in Mill Creek, it's been done in Bellevue. There's a story in Kent, Washington. Let me see if I can pull it up for you. Kent, again, is just south of Seattle. Just to continue to share, in the interest of sharing more information. There's my dog, Bo. Let's try this a different way. And I'm going to have to turn up the air because it's just getting hot in here. Okay. Thank you for your patience. Okay, let's go ahead and flip over to that. Okay. I'm sorry I had picture on picture while we were still on me. Okay, so this is a story from the Kent Reporter, Kent, Washington. This goes back to July 26th, 2021, and it's by Steve Hunter. So let's listen for parallels here, okay? And again, we're going back to last year now. Kent police issued a crime alert Monday about suspects targeting elderly people for their jewelry. Quote, "We have received reports of several thefts that have distinct similarities in method and believe that the incidents are related," according to a July 26th police statement. So police issued a statement in this. The suspects, working as a team, target elderly people who are alone, working in the yard, walking on the street, or in a parking lot. So maybe they aren't tailing in all cases. They approach in a friendly manner, striking up a conversation with the victim, using the conversation as a distraction, while another suspect places cheap custom jewelry on the victim. The suspect then takes necklaces, watches, and takes necklaces, watches, and rings off the victim under the guise that they are trading jewelry, according to police. When the victim protests, the suspects return similar-looking items that were just stolen and then flee in a vehicle, leaving the victim confused to what had occurred. I'd like to say something about that in just a moment. Some of the stolen jewelry has been of considerable value. Again, this is in the Kent, Washington series of crimes last year. The suspects have been described as Romanian or East Indian descent. Reports indicate the man is 30 to 40 years old, 5'6" tall, with a medium build and short black hair, mustache, and short beard. One of the women is 25 to 35 years old, 4'11" to 5'5", tall with a heavy build with black hair. So in my mother-in-law situation and the prior case, it seems that it's been consistently 2 men, 1 woman, and 2 kids. And one of the kids, they're both believed to be girls, and one approximately 12 years of age. And the kids are playing a role once again. You saw it in the California case. When my mother-in-law had the necklaces put over her head, there came a point soon thereafter where the girl, who appeared to be about 12 in the vehicle, was saying things aimed at getting my mother-in-law's attention. So she turned to look at the girl in the vehicle, being respectful and just engaging. And that's simultaneously when the woman who approached her is taking the necklaces off of my mother-in-law. And unbeknownst to my mother-in-law, her necklace was being removed at that moment too. And my mother-in-law said one of the 2 men appeared to be about my age. I'm in my late 50s. I'm 58, soon to be 59. And she said the other man appeared younger and slimmer than the other man. Okay. So there's more in this article. Okay, listen to this. The second woman was described as 60 to 65 years old. This is in the Kent case last year, with a heavy build with black hair. It was further reported the suspect spoke with a thick accent. The suspects have been associated with several vehicles, including a white van, a black 4-door sedan, and a black Ford SUV. And then anyone with information, please call Kent Police. So my mother-in-law said that in her case, the folks had thick accents. It's my information that the prior Mill Creek victims, the couple less than 2 weeks ago, also said that the suspects had thick accents. Now, I was interviewed by the media today, and I did report what my mother-in-law has said, that she speculated on what language they might be their native tongue, and said perhaps Spanish. But my mother-in-law, like a lot of people, doesn't know Spanish, and I would not be surprised if, in fact, the language here is not Spanish, but thick accents nonetheless. So I wanted to share that with you. Let's bring that back. And again, sharing all of this simply because I just want to help spread the awareness. None of what I'm sharing with you is has any official attribution to police. I've not interviewed police. My wife has spoken with the officer who's investigating, but I'm not gleaning from that. There was another source that contacted me, actually, which I think is extremely credible. And if I lived in a community where this was happening, I think there are some questions that have to be asked. Should your neighborhood association be putting the word out the first time something like this happens, so that if you're approached, you have a heads up, you have the benefit of that knowledge? What do you think? Let me know in the comments, either here in the live stream or if you happen to watch this replay. I have to wonder as I consider, where loyalties lie. And, I think if there are neighborhood associations, their ultimate loyalty is to the HOA and the people who live there, who pay those dues. And I think what kind of happens is that there is a risk of, when people are keeping it close to the cuff in terms of how far they feel comfortable sharing the information, that without the transparency, good, helpful information doesn't reach others outside of those immediate communities. And therefore, and I think that the criminals, they thrive on this dynamic, which I think is real. It takes someone speaking out. It takes news media digging to connect the dots and blast this stuff, and doing so in a way where you don't jeopardize the victims by giving their names and addresses and showing B-roll of their neighborhoods. Keep it generic, well-known landmarks, well-traveled highways or roads. In the case of Mill Creek, there's a golf course, there's a very popular market, businesses, Bothell Everett Highway. It's easy to shoot some B-roll. But you want to protect the people who are the victims. And I think, especially in this case, because they're arguably especially vulnerable. These people are, the 3 I'm aware of, are closer to 90 than they are 80. So just checking the comments. Doesn't seem that we have any other questions in the live stream. Let me just rack my brain and think of, is there anything else? One of the television stations reported that my mother-in-law was out for a walk. She wasn't. Again, she returned from running errands. This is something else I wanted to say. She returned from going 3 places: the post office, the bank, and the Mill Creek Community Association, which is just to do something errands real quick, which is across from the clubhouse where the golf course is located, a well-known landmark to locals who live in Mill Creek. We read an article where it said that the people are left confused. A lot of people have asked me, especially on Twitter, how's your mother-in-law doing? She was rattled. She was shaken. So the emotional component is what's at play here. Thankfully, she wasn't physically assaulted, but still, this is a mugging of sorts, isn't it? Because hands are placed on her. She's never asked, and this is playing out again and again. And she's got 3 adults and 2 children, pre-teens around her, in front of her. She didn't call police right away. Hours went by. Remember, I told you that she estimates that she was robbed between roughly 12:30 in the afternoon and 1, so like a half-hour window there. That's her hunch for the time frame. It was maybe 7 o'clock at night when my wife called my mother-in-law, her mom, and said, "Hey, Mom, how's it going?" "Oh, I'm having a terrible day. I was robbed." "What? Have you called police?" "No." "Tell me what happened." My wife called police. An officer was soon at my mother-in-law's place, taking a statement, getting the information. And then I went over there. The police officer had just left. And while I was there, the police officer called my mother-in-law back and said, "Oh, I wanted to follow up. I forgot to ask you how much the jewelry's worth." And I'm not going to get into that, but I would think that there's a level, and I think it's probably around $750, where when the value of what was stolen rises to a felony. So the bottom line is, it would be wonderful not only to, and by doing this, help spread the awareness and education for those who aren't familiar with this scheme and this approach, but let's get these folks off the road. And it sounds like it's more than one group, certainly, and it's going on in different states. So I don't know how interesting this was to you for eye candy, so to speak. You got stuck looking at me most of the time. Hopefully it was informational, though. And if you found this video of use and you like this type of content, please give the video a thumbs up, and feel free to subscribe. But that really helps the channel, and I will be doing more content soon on YouTube as things get properly back on track with making social a priority, one of the priorities in my day-to-day, because I really do enjoy the engagement. And if you know anything about my Twitter, I do share a lot of news-related content, and I also do a lot of photography and video work, and like to share that here on YouTube. And I've got some great ideas for things that we can be bringing later soon during this year and going forward. So thank you so much. Just checking the comments one more time. Nothing new. All right. So those of you who watch live, thank you. And those of you who are catching the replay, thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful day. Feel free to share this video if you'd like and help spread the word, or cite some of the other sources. King 5, you can find content there. Q13, that's the Fox station in Seattle as well. You can find content there. On my Twitter feed, which is at Beyond 90 Seconds, you can find in the thread about all of this that began yesterday, you can find the Kent Reporter article, and you can find the Fox story with the video out of California. And again, my Twitter is at Beyond 90 Seconds, at Beyond 90 Seconds. So thank you all very much. Really appreciate it. Hope you have a wonderful day or evening, wherever you might be, and hope to see you again soon. Stay safe out there. So long.